So welcome to today's podcast. On today's podcast, I have Christel Wintels from the BNI Golden Horseshoe and BNI Niagara region. Thank you, Christel, for joining us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to be amazing, and I'm going to get lots of insight on BNI because I know you're a long-standing member. So let's get right into it. How does your BNI journey begin?
So it's interesting for me because BNI started in Canada in 1995, and I actually joined a chapter as a member in 1996. So the program had only been here for just over a year, and I joined with a small advertising agency that I owned at the time in Toronto, right in Midtown Toronto, so right at Yonge and Eglinton. And someone invited me to this business meeting. I actually had just lost a very large client, which is not what someone's looking for when they're looking to grow a business. And so just to give you, I'm going to do a little asterisk on that. The reason I lost the client is it was a sponsorship client and a cigarette company. And it was just at the time where cigarette companies, it was then illegal for them to sponsor things. So yeah, so that was a big client for me. And so I'm kind of mooching around saying to my friends, how do I build business? Yeah, exactly. Who do you know, right? And someone said, one of my clients said to me, you know, a writer friend of mine belongs to something called BNI. I'm like, okay. And they meet and maybe you should let me connect the two of you and maybe you want to go to one of those meetings. And I'm like, okay. And I was going to all kinds of networking events. So of course, like any normal person, I was invited to a 7 o'clock meeting, which I assumed was 7 p.m. And as we know in BNI, it was not 7 p.m. And I walked into this restaurant. For any of you who know Toronto, it's the Fran's that used to be at Yonge and Eglinton. And so I walked up to the second floor and there's like a whole lot of people there. And I'm like, what are all these people doing out of bed? It's like, what? Huh? And I'm one of those people that by the first half an hour I was in, right? I saw the structure. I didn't even see the referral exchange yet. I just liked what the members were saying about themselves. And I liked how the meeting had been started. So all that needed to happen was something in the next hour to turn me off because I was like in. And then I submitted my application, was accepted in the advertising agency seat, and the rest moves on. Well, I was one of the very first, it was kind of interesting for me, I was one of the very first people who became a director for BNI and had been a member because it was so new that a lot of the franchise owners had never been members. Wow. Right? They just knew it was a good concept. They just didn't know exactly how it was going to roll out.
That's great. And look, all these years later, you're still part of it.
I am.
And you're leading from the top, which is amazing.
Wow.
So what's the one piece of advice you'd give anybody that's thinking about joining BNI?
I think one of the best recommendations I can give business people is, and this is going to sound weird, BNI is not for everybody, which is not really the way you want to start when you're saying, hey, everybody should join BNI. But BNI is not for everybody, and here's why. Over the years, and I'm coming up to my 25th, over the years, I found that brand new businesses, this probably, with a few exceptions, isn't the totally right alignment for them because you have to have a deep network. Right? And BNI is also not the cheapest game in town. So you also have to have a marketing budget, right? And so I found that over the years, when it's been brand new startups, and I mean brand new, George, when it's been brand new startups, we have done them a disservice bringing them into the organization too quickly because there's a whole lot of other networking opportunities for a brand new startup. Because let's face it, when we start up, I think we need to be very concerned about financials, right? And we also may not have the depth of network, right?
Absolutely. That's some great advice.
So I think where we suit business people is when they're in that like 3 to 8 year phase where they have a solid network, they've defined what kind of clients they want to work with, and they can teach us how to connect them with their next best clients. And they in turn have a deep network to be able to connect us to who they know. That seems to me to be the sweet spot.
Nice.
Right.
That's some good advice. Yes. And my years of BNI, which is almost 10 now,
Wow.
I've seen that quite a bit in our chapter in our region, where we get some people that are looking to start a business. They look at BNI, but yeah, they don't have that network.
Yeah.
But I've also seen, a few where, hey, they're starting off, maybe they've joined an existing business, like a mortgage brokerage, and they do well. So,
yeah. So again, you're absolutely right. It could be individual circumstances, but for the most part, I think it's probably who's attracted to us is business people that are a little more established, in my experience.
Nice. So you have a lot of experience in BNI. You've seen a lot of businesses come through your region, right? Yep. What's the biggest mistake BNI members make once they join?
I'm going to give you an analogy of the biggest mistake that I made when I joined something. So I'm not a huge workout person. So it's not one, I have not yet found my passion for working out. So anybody, of course, who's listening to this are going to give me all kind of workout advice, which my team gives me all the time. I'm just not a huge passionate workout person. So years ago, when I joined a gym, I thought, I'll start showing up regularly and I'll get fit. So you got to use the machines. You got to use them properly. You got to use them regularly. You kind of have to participate, right? I thought, well, I'll just have the gumption and the motivation to go. I'll get on those machines. And I found that sometimes potential BNI members or BNI members can be the same. It's like, I joined, I've submitted my application, I'm accepted, and now the referrals will come. Right? But you got to participate and you got to work to make them fall into your lap, if you will. And when you're able to do those key success activities, just like a gym, then all of a sudden they will fall into your lap. But that's probably the one time where I've seen expectations not being met. Somebody joins a BNI chapter. It's like, wow, I've been a member for 3 months and I don't have any referrals yet. You got to work to build the trust. And that's what takes time in BNI.
Yes, it's called network, right?
For a good reason, George.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. We've had members where they want to change the whole system. The system has been around for 30 plus years. It works. Just work the system.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
So in saying that, what's the one thing a new member should focus on to become successful with the BNI?
In my opinion, on booking that face-to-face, Zoom to Zoom, video conferencing time with members on a singular one-to-one basis. Sometimes I think when members join our organization as a new member, they feel perhaps a little bit shy, let's use that word, about approaching somebody like you who's a 10-year member and saying, hey George, could we meet one-to-one, because you've been around a long time. And I would strongly encourage all members to not hesitate. That's where you're going to build the relationships, and the referrals are going to come from those relationships. But in addition to that, in the current business climate that we're in, if I can say that, you'll also find support there that you won't even imagine, right? That's one of the things that we found, and I'm going to throw a date in here, over the summer of 2020, is that our members have been a support structure for each other that we never even would have imagined. So to build those deep relationships, that takes the time to meet eyeball to eyeball, if you will, whether it's through a video conference, whether you can do it face to face, that's where the trust is built. And I think if there's one activity that new members and all members can do, it's to have those one-to-one meetings, because that's where the referrals will come from. And everything else successful will follow from that.
I agree. It's a great way to build relationships and trust within the group. And imagine if you have a group of 25 members to 30 members, if you do a one-to-one a week, it's still going to take you 6 months or more to get through the whole chapter.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And then to what happens, George, and I'm sure you've seen it yourself, you'll cycle back to those people that will be those strong collaborative relationships with you, right? So one-to-one isn't going to do it. it's that collaborative build when you keep cycling back to meet with those folks time and again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So you have a pretty big region, the Golden Horseshoe, the Niagara region.
I do.
I'm sure you need help to run these regions, right?
Yes.
What do you look for in people to help you run a big region like the one you own?
So I when we were meeting face to face, I used to joke about this kind of thing when we are looking to recruit for our team, which by the way, we are always looking to do. So when we look to recruit for our team, I would go to a chapter meeting, I would do a visit, I'd do my presentation, and then the announcements portion, I say, so we're looking to build out the team. We're looking for ambassadors, we're looking for directors, consultants, and there's one absolute grueling characteristic that someone who I consider for the team has to have. And everybody's like, what? Like they have to give 1 million referrals. I go, no. I have to like them. So that freaks people out. They're like, well, how do we know if you like us? So let me explain that a little bit. I found that when I first started building out a team, I would often go by statistics, right? Because people are posting great statistics in BNI. The value of the referrals they give, the number of the referrals they give. But what even tips somebody over the top, if you will, is the attitude of how they build the relationships. And typically, when we meet somebody we like, we're able to build trust and we're able to build a collaboration on that initial liking. So I decided to trust that initial liking, right? And again, I don't know all of our members because we have 500.
Yeah.
But when someone refers them, I ask the team to refer people to me who they think might be a good fit. 9 times out of 10, they're bang on because they feel they could work with the person as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it comes down to attitude. I talk to some of my colleagues across the globe and they're like, well, somebody has to be in BNI for 3 years. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like them to have some management experience in BNI, but what I'm really looking for is somebody, typically when I ask why they'd like to be on the regional support team, they will answer with the words, because I want to help other people be successful. I want to help even more people be successful. BNI's worked for me and I want to help it work for other people. And that's how I know I'm recruiting the right person.
Yes, that's a great point. I agree. If you are a successful member in BNI, that's one of the things that most successful members have is they love to help other people. And we're seeing it right now, like you mentioned, the support that we have for each other has been amazing.
Yeah, it's true. And it's even surprised me, George, like the support that members have shown each other has been phenomenal.
Yes. So talking about surprises, what's the one thing you get out of BNI the most that you enjoy?
It's funny because people will ask me that because sometimes being involved in an organization that has, let's call it strong individuals in the organization. Entrepreneurs are not shrinking violets for the most part, right? So entrepreneurs are fairly strong individuals. I think the thing that surprises me the most is as much as I have to find different ways to possibly present the same message repeatedly, what surprises me is how much in our region is the one I can speak to is members will step up, right? And by step up, I mean just do that little bit more that will tweak their activities so they get that higher return on investment. And I'm continually surprised because sometimes I'll say to people, you know, if you did this, or in some cases, if it's a management team, I'll say, we have to do this. And I found that with entrepreneurs, when we explain the why, because I like to know the why, that people will not only step up, they'll step beyond where I've asked them to step. And that continues to surprise me because, you know, with entrepreneurs, they don't like the word must. They don't like the word you have to. But I think for all of us as entrepreneurs, when we understand that if we do this and just a little bit more, it will move us all in the same direction, which is success, much more quickly. Nice. And that continues to surprise me happily.
That's good. You know? That's good. I'm glad people like to step up for their success.
They do.
Yeah, for sure.
They do.
So you touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but what did you do before you got involved with BNI?
So I used to work, own a small boutique advertising agency that was based out of downtown Toronto. So I actually was one of the first folks to move into the desktop publishing world. Now I'm aging myself because everybody does desktop publishing now. But yeah, so I moved into the advertising world as a desktop publishing when I went independent, because I worked for advertising agencies as account representatives for a number of them in Toronto, and then decided that, you know, I was going to chart my own path and invested a little bit of money in some desktop publishing equipment, which back then, I'll tell you, George, was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And started to sort of build that into the desktop publishing, and that kind of grew, well, it did grow into a small boutique advertising agency. And the clients that I got in those first 2 years of owning the small advertising agency were all word of mouth referrals. Wow. Friends of friends.
That's amazing.
Right? Yeah.
That led you right into BNI.
It did, which is why that marketing program aligned with me so well, because I thought, wow, this is putting a structure and a process behind what's been working for me already.
Absolutely.
Right.
So with all the craziness that's going on, when you're having a bad day, what do you do to make yourself feel better?
Yeah, I looked at that question and thought, I think part of it is, for me, as much as I spend a great deal of my time in front of other people, because that's the job of a franchise owner in BNI. I talk to our members all the time. I talk to the chapters all the time. I talk to people who don't know about BNI. When we got together face to face, I did public speaking. So I'm in front of people a lot. So actually, when I have a bad day, a little bit of quiet time goes a long way to help me adjust. And I read this great quote, and I was thinking about this as I read your question. I read this great quote probably just as we were going through lockdown in this part of the world. And let's face it, we didn't know if it was Christmas or Good Friday, if I can say that. Like, we didn't.
Absolutely.
Nobody knew what they were doing. Everybody was frightened, anxious, and rightfully so. And I remember reading this quote that says, are you having a bad day, or did you just have 20 bad minutes that's expanded into your day? And so I try to look back, or I try to kind of sit back and assess and say, okay, was that just one conversation that went a little wonky, or am I really having a bad day?
Yeah.
Right? And if I can kind of carve it into perspective like that, it's like most of us, the whole day isn't horrible. I'm not saying some aren't, but most of us, it's not the whole day. Something's gone a little wonky for a few moments or an hour, and we get to choose whether or not we want that to throw our whole day.
Absolutely.
So,
get over that little hump and get on with the day.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you passionate about right now in life? What drives you?
Oh. Well, I have had to learn to be passionate about technology. Yes. So I am not exactly a leader in technology. You know, when they do those whole, when they're talking tech marketing talk, they talk about early adapters. I'm the one at the back end of that curve. It's like I will have it when it's been out for 3 years, right?
Yes.
So it's becoming a BNI legend now that up until the week before we went into lockdown, I did not own a webcam.
Oh.
So, yeah. So that has become interesting. And so I'm passionate, shockingly to me, about how much tech can support the relationships. Because honestly, until I saw it, George, I didn't believe it.
Yes. I
thought that people, like, you have to meet eyeball to eyeball. How can you tell what somebody's, the nuances? But I've been shockingly surprised by how much tech has supported what we're doing in BNI. It's not perfect, right? If I could go back to face-to-face, I'd do it in a second. But it's not horrible is the part that I like. So I've become passionate about that, but I've also become passionate again because we all had to move our businesses home. When I started in the BNI business, I had the office out of my house. And I had to force myself to disconnect from it. And so then when we moved into this great training space that we're in now, I left my home to go to an office. And I found that when I moved the office back to the house, I was losing any kind of boundaries. Like, I'm in front of the computer all the time. And that's not good for any of us, particularly when we're dealing with community anxiety. So I had to get passionate about allowing myself to move away from the computer, to allow myself to have that quiet time. And I kind of had to reteach myself that because I forgot that skill set.
Nice.
So I actually went back to some of my time management books, right? Because I'm a lifelong learner, so I have a library of business books. And I kind of reignited my whole thought as to, okay, I can focus here in the business, but I also need to focus on making sure that I'm staying energized, that I'm staying solid, because that's what I want to bring to the members. Yes. And I actually wrote a couple of articles about that. I posted a couple of LinkedIn articles about that, about getting that. It's not even balance, it's harmony. And I got quite passionate about, so those are the kind of things I'm passionate about right now, because I think this is a difficult time for everyone. And if it helps to share what I am going through with everybody else, I think the more that we can communicate it, the more we feel that we can be in this together, but also come through this together.
I agree. There's been a lot of change with BNI. I think, BNI Global did a great job in pivoting to this online platform. I know all the franchises in Canada did a great job in supporting their members throughout the transition. I believe we only missed one meeting in our region, which was great, in your region as well.
One week we were dark.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And yes, adapting technology sometimes it's hard to be the first one to do it, but we've done a pretty solid job to get to where we are right now.
Right, so, and that is not an area of comfort for me.
No,
so
most people
way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. Yes. So Christel, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you or learn about your region or anything like that, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
There's a couple of different ways. So I, of course, am available by email, which is Christel@bnigh.com. But also our regional website is BNIGH, which stands for goldenhorseshoe.com, and BNI-Niagara.com as well. So that's where all of our members are listed. But yep, email is an easy way to get to me. And of course, George, they can always find me through you.
That's true. They can
we're
reach out to me.
Affiliated with Ontario Southwest.
Absolutely. They can reach out to me and I can connect you for sure. That'll be a referral.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Nice. So did I miss anything you want to talk about today, Christel?
No, I don't think so. I think if I can just share a little bit, I think one of the fantastic things that I've seen a whole lot of members doing is exactly what you're doing, is finding different ways to get messages out to people who might be able to benefit from the message. So I have probably been on more diverse and interesting podcasts and video casts since we've stopped meeting face to face than I had been before, right? Because so many people are getting so creative as in taking messages out in ways that they didn't do it before. So I've been hugely impressed that I know you have done this. Like, this is your 20th or 21st interview, which I think is amazing, right? And you're posting that information for people to find if they want to find it. Mm-hmm. And I've been on a couple of other podcasts, and the information, like the caliber of the information has been excellent. And the dedication of people to do it, because I'm going to guess this is not a paid gig for you, George.
No.
Right. And most of the podcasts I've been on and most of the video casts I've been on are all from the heart, right? It's people just want to share that information. They want to support not only the people in their community, but their fellow business owners. And I have just been very, very impressed by how many people have stepped up to do really good stuff online and share that so readily. So I wanted to thank you for that and for including me.
Thank you, Christel. It was a pleasure having you on. Great to see you again.
Good to see you.
Absolutely. Have yourself a great day.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.